Hello everyone, this is Melanie from Melanie B's Creative Studio and Melanie B's Creative Supplies, and I'm here today with a collaboration with MyPaintz. Not MyPaintz, but a company called MyPaintz. I have been really excited to bring you this collaboration because this company reached out to me and said, we have this paint that we want you to try. They sent me this set of 24 paints. Their claim is that they're very opaque. And I, of course, was like, please let me test these paints for my paint by number enthusiast. I was very curious about the consistency along with the level of transparency. I took the plastic wrapping off of the package for lighting purposes. Now on the box, when you see a square like this on paint, what that means is whether it is opaque or not. So when you see a square that's open, that it's a transparent paint. And when you see one that is half full, it is a semi-opaque or semi-transparent, depends on the terminology that a company uses. Sometimes they will have transparent, semi-transparent, semi-opaque, and opaque. So they'll have 4 levels of transparency for their paints or their product. And in this case, they have 3. So that's going to be maybe a middle of the road opacity. And then the square filled in completely means that it's an opaque paint. I have been extensively researching acrylic paint because I have been designing my own. For me to be doing this video is like, why are you doing this video? Well, the reason I'm doing this video is because they're using a heavy body paint. My paints will not be heavy body. So there's not going to be any competition between whatever's in this box and what I'm developing. So I'll be right back with all the contents out and let's take a look at what's inside. Oh my goodness. I could tell you guys that I'm obsessed with color, but I think that that's obvious. So here are the contents of the box. And I'm going to just show you these items on the top really quickly, and then we're going to go jump right into the colors. And that's the most important part to me. So yeah, let's just jump right in. First of all, there's a card that gives you some information about the paint itself. And then we also get some good brushes. So they're giving us a variety of brushes, and these are larger than the ones that, I carry for detail work. These are wooden painted handles, and you're going to get 9 different brushes in this set. I do like the fact that they've included a palette for us. I feel like I'm in France. Oui, oui, bonjour. Okay. No one would ever accuse me of having any kind of French culture. All right, so let's take a look at the yummy, delicious colors. I will be swatching these paints. All right, so we have 2 titanium whites, sand, lemon yellow, mid yellow, orange yellow, permanent red, crimson red, magenta red, pink, pale purple, ultramarine blue, phthalo blue, sky blue, phthalo green, spring green, yellow green, Prussian green, burnt sienna, raw umber, gray, black, silver, and gold. So you do get 2 metallics in this set. So there are 24 paints. I'm pretty sure I mentioned that, but the best part about that is that you are getting your basic mixing colors in the set. So when I come back and I teach you about color mixing, you will have the colors that you need in this set to learn how to color mix. Plus, when I use my set, I'm going to be introducing a mixing color palette first. So let's move on. Let's talk about the consistency of the paint. Let's swatch the paints. And I really want to paint something. I want to work on something with these paints. Because, why not? Okay, so let's take a look at this swatch. The way I swatch these is just like I would do with a heavy body paint. as I've shown you in NORGESON videos, where I've made the paint swatch thick with like texture and say in an impasto a couple of times. It ain't easy. Don't judge me. All right, so I'm gonna like click and make this focused, hopefully. Let's see if you can see the focus on that. So you see how I've got some dimension there, and that's how I painted these, with some texture to see if it would build up and give me more dimension. So that is what I would use these paints for. That way I could also test for opacity for the way I'd be using these. You'll notice I only have 23 swatches, and that's because I have 2 titanium whites. Let's talk about opacity. Which ones were truly opaque based on what is on the bottle? So titanium white was a beautifully opaque color. Sand was opaque. Lemon yellow and mid yellow, neither one were truly opaque. Lemon yellow was more of a semi-opaque. Mid yellow was more of a semi-transparent, but I only put 1 layer. So if I had gone back and done a second layer on lemon yellow, it would have been opaque. On mid yellow, it might have taken a 3rd layer. And again, these are thicker coats than normal. Orange yellow was opaque. Permanent red was opaque, but it is a thick layer. You can see it may not have been if I had not put down a thick layer. It would have been more of a semi or a transparent, and that does say it's opaque. All right, crimson red, beautiful, it's opaque. Magenta is more on the opaque side. Pink, beautifully opaque. Pale purple, and it's opaque. Ultramarine blue, now that one is usually transparent, and every single test that I've run to develop my paints, ultramarine blue is always transparent or semi-transparent. And I did layer it up, and I got an opaque coverage because I did put a thick layer. This is the color in the past that I've called the gel blue. Now that I know that by nature, ultramarine blue is a transparent blue, I understand better that it will always be that gel looking blue, and that's always going to be transparent. But I have actually developed one that is opaque. All right, phthalo blue is opaque. Sky blue is beautiful, it's opaque. Phthalo green was pretty much opaque, but I had to, layer it too. Even though it does say it's opaque, it is having to be, thickly layered, which are what these paints are designed to be done with, you guys. They're designed to be laid heavy. They're heavy body, which we're going to look at the consistency in a minute. Let's see, where was I? Spring green, beautiful, opaque. Yellow green does not, it claims to be opaque, and it was somewhere in between. Prussian green was actually nicely opaque, even though it says that it was going to be semi-opaque. Burnt sienna was opaque. Raw umber, opaque. Gray, opaque. Black, opaque. They all claim to be opaque. Silver says it's opaque, but I really had to work with silver. I did get it to be opaque, but took a little work to get it that way. And then gold says it's opaque. And same with that one. I did have to give it a little bit extra work to get it that way, but it is beautiful. So this is a beautiful set, you guys. Like, love the consistency. Oh my gosh, love it, which we're going to look at in a minute. And then the coverage was beautiful, with the exception of these two, really. Those 2 yellows, which, we've come to expect. Besides those are the only ones that really gave me any grief. You all may remember this painting. This is the NORGESON and Melanie B's Creative Studios Sweet Memories that I brought to you guys not long ago in a review. This one is one that you paint with texture. So although I do have the original paints, I want to test the MyPaintz with this particular painting and just show you the consistency and how they cover and that kind of thing. So I will just mix up one of the colors in this palette and test it out on the canvas, because I ain't scared, y'all. So ironically, I've lost the original swatch for this particular painting because I don't know, because I have a cat now and she is the bane of my existence. And so it was in the den and I move around to paint, and so I don't know what happened to it. I don't have an actual swatch to compare to the paint I want to create. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to replicate number 5, which is this color right here. It is kind of a grayish teal. I'm going to take a little bit of it because I want to see what it looks like wet. I'm going to scoop a tiny amount so that I can replicate it pretty closely with the paints that I have. The paint colors that I'm going to be using to duplicate number 5 are going to be the gray, because this looks like it's got some gray in it, and I'm going to go ahead and just squeeze some out on the silicone mat. And then it looks like it has kind of a bluish green. This is a pretty light, and it is the spring green. This is how we test. I'm going to put a tiny bit out of that. A tiny bit. I hate when I waste paint. All right, and then I'm going to have the titanium white pretty handy to lighten things up if I need it. Not sure if it's a phthalo blue or ultramarine blue, sky blue. Sky blue is more of a kind of an aqua blue. So I'm going to keep my paint stir handy because it's nice to mix with as well. And I don't know if I mentioned, but I also have these on the website. I use them for stirring and things, and I absolutely love my stainless steel stirrers. I'm going to put a little bit of ultramarine. Ultramarine has a kind of a reddish tint, so it almost can come off as a little bit purple. Blah. So as I start mixing, I'm going to start using the Melanie B flat number 2 brush to mix. I'll put white out if I need it. So because this has the grayish blue, I'm going to start with a little bit of blue with the gray first to try to get it in the same family as number 5. And I'm going to pick up some of this spring green here. I'll pick up a little bit more of the ultramarine blue. Definitely more of the ultramarine blue. I want to use all this gray, so I might as well just get it all in there. This kind of mixing is a lot of trial and error. This is not the kind of color mixing I'm going to come back and teach you. The kind of color mixing I want to teach you is going to be a lot easier than this. Now, if it starts spreading out like it's doing, when it gets too thin, it will dry really fast. So this is when I will take my stirring stick, kind of scrape off a lot of the paint from my brush. And then I'm going to use it almost like a spatula, a paint spatula, and get it pulled back into the middle because I don't want to waste my paint. It's always better to put less than more because you don't want to get too much of any one color. Now you'll notice I got paint up near my ferrule on my brush. I don't want that to happen, so I want to make sure I clean that out using the little rubber scrubber that's down in my paint cup before it could dry in there, because that's what causes fraying in my brushes, which I don't want. There's a lot more blue in that color than I originally noticed. It needs more green. You see how much green is in that and how much blue is in this one? So what I need to do is I'm definitely going to have to add a little bit of green. The green I see is phthalo green. Just get a tiny little bit scooped out. I'm going to pick a little bit of that up, put it right here on the side of my mat, and I'm going to use my spatula to stir it in. Number 5 was a combination of gray, ultramarine blue, and phthalo green, and a little bit of that spring green. Let's try to paint with it and see how it works as far as giving us the texture that we need for a NORGESON piece. I'm going to go in with one of my number 1 flat brushes. You can see that the difference in width from the number 2 to the number 1 is pretty substantial. It's got a different length on it here, but I love the flat brushes. They're my favorite. Okay, so I've picked up some of the paint. You can see it doesn't come off. Let's go in here and test the paint. I don't know if the color is exact, but you know what? It's far enough away. I think it'll be fine. We just want to see how this covers and how it holds its shape. So far, I'm loving it. It's so creamy. Oh, it's holding its position, and it's holding the texture beautifully. Ooh, I love it. So I like, you know, just scoop up a blob, like just, and then I place it where I want it and kind of tap it in to create that dimension that I want. And if I go out of the lines like I just did it there, I don't get really worried about it because it's not a big deal. When you're working with an impressionist painting like this kind, the lines are not a big deal. So I had a lot of extra paint here in a big open area. So I'm just going to place it there, flip my brush around, and then when I get in this little area here, I'll pick up another little bit on the tip. So switching brushes, I'm continuing to use number 1, and I just manipulate the brush. I'm not switching out too much. Cleaning and switching between brushes takes a lot of time, and I don't like to spend too much time doing that if I can help it. So when I select a brush for an opening, I usually try to consider the entire opening. And I use the largest brush that will work for that entire cell. Oh my gosh. First of all, the color that I mixed was like beautifully perfect. I'm kind of surprised with myself. Because I could have, you know, it could have been an epic fail. Now, I'm getting in here in a super tight area, so instead of this big blob of paint going in that little tiny opening, I'm just going to smash it all open here in this other number 5. And I'll finish using this paint. You won't have to watch me do that. So I'll just finish it. We'll see how it dries. Take a photo of it and see if it maintains its peaks and valleys and everything and dimension, and then we'll just finish this video up. Well, you guys, I think you can tell I am very impressed with MyPaintz acrylic paint set. I really loved the way that they held their texture and dimension when I was painting on that NORGESON painting. They mixed beautifully, and I loved the colors that were included in this set. It's a very complete color palette for those of you especially who want to learn to mix your own paints or who know how to mix your own paints. I also want to mention, and I haven't brought this up in a long time, but I have affiliate links listed in the description below for you that if you will use those affiliate links that I provided, you help me earn a very small commission off of the purchases that you make. That helps keep my channel alive. It helps me earn a small amount for the amount of time that it takes for me to record the content and edit. So for the 15 or 16 hours that it might take for me to record and edit and do the graphics and all the information and everything for a video. And so I always appreciate it when you use those links to make your purchase. If you purchase any of the products from my website, that is also very helpful in allowing me to be able to continue to bring you content. And I just always appreciate you guys and your continued support. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Don't forget to like this video, and I would love your comments below on what you think of this MyPaintz set. And I promise you guys I will come back at a future date with a sneak peek of the paints that I am developing. All right. I will see you guys back soon. Thanks as always for watching.